Tonight, the war between Israel and Iran appears to have crossed another dangerous line. Israel now says it has killed Iran's intelligence minister, one of the most sensitive and powerful figures inside the Iranian state. And within hours, Tehran fired back with fresh strikes as explosion sirens and emergency alerts once again spread across Israel and parts of the wider region. This is not just another exchange of threats. This is a rapidly escalating cycle of targeted killings and retaliation. And every new strike is increasing the risk that this conflict grows even wider. According to Israeli officials, the man killed was Iran's intelligence minister, Esmail Khatib. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said the strike happened overnight in Tehran and described it as another major blow against Iran's leadership structure. If confirmed, this would make Khatib the third senior Iranian figure Israel says it has killed in just 2 days, following other major assassinations that have already shaken Tehran's command structure. But here's the key point right from the start. This is still an Israeli claim. Multiple outlets reported the announcement from Israel, but Tehran had not fully confirmed that claim in the early coverage. That distinction matters, because in a conflict like this, both sides are fighting with missiles and narratives at the same time. So tonight's story is not just about what Israel says happened. It is about what that claim means, why this target matters so much, and why Iran's immediate response shows the danger is rising, not falling. Before we go deeper, if you want clear, fast, and fact-based coverage of the biggest stories moving the world right now, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this story is changing by the hour, and the next 24 hours could determine whether this becomes an even wider regional war. Let's break down what we know. That wider pattern matters. Just 1 day earlier, Reuters reported that Ali Larijani, one of Iran's most important power brokers and security figures, had been killed in an Israeli airstrike. Reuters described Larijani as a major backroom force in Iranian politics and security. So if Israel's claim about Khatib is accurate, we are no longer talking about isolated strikes. We are talking about a rapid decapitation strategy aimed at Iran's upper leadership and security architecture. And Tehran did not wait long to respond. AP reported that Iran launched strikes toward Israel and Gulf countries after the latest Israeli attacks, while other reports said 2 people were killed near Tel Aviv in one of the retaliatory missile barrages. That timing is crucial. It tells us Iran is trying to show that targeted killings at the top of its system do not stop its ability to retaliate. In other words, Israel is trying to prove Iran's leadership is vulnerable, while Iran is trying to prove its military response remains intact. This is why the headline matters beyond the name of one official. When a country says it has killed the intelligence minister of its adversary, that is not only a military operation, it is a political message, a psychological message, and a strategic message. It is saying, we can reach people you thought were protected. And when the other side answers with missiles just hours later, its message is, we can still impose a cost even after losing key figures. That is how escalation works. Every side tries to restore deterrence by raising the stakes. And there is another reason this is so dangerous. This conflict is no longer being watched only through the lens of airstrikes and assassinations. It is now deeply tied to oil markets, shipping routes, and global economic nerves. Reuters reported this week that oil prices rose again as traders weighed renewed Iranian attacks and continuing supply risks linked to the war. Even where some tanker traffic has started to move, the threat environment remains serious enough that officials in global shipping have warned naval escorts alone cannot guarantee safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. That means every military escalation now carries an economic echo far beyond the battlefield. So when Israel says it has killed Iran's intelligence minister, and Iran answers with new strikes, this is not happening in a vacuum. It is happening inside a broader war environment where energy prices, shipping lanes, civilian fear, and international diplomacy are all being pulled into the same vortex. Now let's talk about why this specific moment feels different. In many conflicts, major states trade strikes, but they still leave room for deniability or delay. Here, that space keeps shrinking. Reuters, AP, and CNBC have all been reporting a pattern of more direct claims, faster retaliation, and more public framing from both sides. The result is a conflict that is becoming harder to pause and easier to widen. Once top officials are being named and targeted one after another, domestic pressure inside each country also changes. Leaders become less able to step back without appearing weak. And that helps explain why Europe is sounding more alarmed. Reuters reported that European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas called on the United States and Israel to end the war with Iran and said Europe wanted to help bring the parties together diplomatically. That is a significant signal. It suggests at least some Western leaders are increasingly worried not only about the humanitarian and security fallout, but also about the strategic drift of the conflict. In plain language, the longer this continues, the more actors fear it may stop being manageable. At the same time, the political pressure is rising in the United States as well. Reuters reported that Trump and his allies have used a familiar tactic in helping shape public messaging around the Iran war: attacking the press. That matters because when wars become politically difficult, messaging becomes part of the battlefield. Competing narratives about success, failure, escalation, and blame begin to shape not just public opinion, but also the room leaders believe they have to act. So where does that leave us tonight? It leaves us with four big realities. First, Israel says it has killed Iran's intelligence minister, Esmail Khatib. That is a major claim involving one of the most sensitive posts in the Iranian system. Second, this follows the killing of other senior Iranian figures, including Ali Larijani, which points to a broader campaign targeting Iran's upper security leadership. Third, Iran has already responded with more strikes, including attacks that caused deaths near Tel Aviv, showing that its retaliatory capacity remains active even under pressure. And fourth, all of this is unfolding inside a conflict that is already shaking oil markets, shipping confidence, and international diplomacy. Now, one important point for viewers tonight: it is tempting in a breaking story like this to jump straight to the biggest possible conclusion. But that is exactly where bad reporting starts. The honest position right now is that we know what Israel is claiming, we know Iran has retaliated, and we know the conflict has intensified again. What we do not know yet is whether Tehran will officially confirm Khatib's death, what further retaliation may be planned, and whether another wave of strikes is already being prepared on either side. That uncertainty is exactly why this story is so dangerous. Because in wars like this, uncertainty does not calm things down. It often does the opposite. It creates pressure for more dramatic proof, more visible retaliation, and stronger public statements. If one side believes it has to demonstrate dominance and the other believes it must restore deterrence, the cycle becomes self-feeding. And when that happens in a region tied directly to global oil supply, shipping lanes, and multiple military powers, the consequences move far beyond one night of strikes. The next 24 hours will now be critical. Watch for three things. First, does Iran officially confirm or deny the death of Esmail Khatib? That will tell us whether Israel's claim stands uncontested or becomes another battle over narrative. Second, does Tehran's response remain limited to missile retaliation, or does it widen the pressure through Gulf attacks, proxy activity, or more aggressive moves tied to regional shipping? That will tell us whether Iran is trying to send a message or expand the battlefield. Third, do outside actors push harder for de-escalation, or do they begin preparing for a longer confrontation? Europe's call for diplomacy suggests concern is growing, but concern and leverage are not always the same thing. For now, the headline is simple, but the implications are enormous. Israel says it killed Iran's intelligence minister. Tehran has already fired back. And what we are watching tonight is not just a breaking news moment. It may be another step in the transformation of this conflict from a dangerous regional war into something even harder to contain. If you want, I can also do